Welcome everyone to the Feel Inspired podcast. And before I do anything else, I'm going to give myself a little... I forgot my Spark Conversations cards, but in case you are someone who struggles with a little bit of dating, perhaps conversation, or you're just fed up with the usual boring questions that get fired at you, how are you, what do you do, where are you from, and you want to do something a bit different, if you head on over to sparkconversations.shop, you will find my Spark Conversations cards. They're a great tool to take on any date. You can just take them out. You can ask each other questions. You can play some card games, whatever you want. It's up to you. But if you want to do something a bit different in your dating life, then check out sparkconversations.shop. Anyway, I'm Amit Sodha, holistic love coach, and I'm very lucky today because I've got two awesome, also brown-faced dating coaches on the couch today. So I invited him here and I thought, let's just shoot the shit, have some fun, chat breeze, whatever we want. It doesn't have to be all dating. If we want to chat about anything else as well. But I thought, why not? Let's find out some different opinions about the whole state of dating and what's been going on and, you know, what we can do about it. And, you know, what's the best advice you've got for people. So I want to start with a little bit of a backstory on both of you. So we'll start with Manj. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this line of work. Because it is, let's face it, it's more of a... I would almost describe it as more of a feminine profession. However, I remember when I started to get into this was about 2008 when Hitch came out. So then it was, you know, starting to slowly get associated with perhaps a powerful male figure doing something like this. So what's your story? How did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, I think I've kind of fallen into it, to be honest with you. I worked in a bank for about 10 years. I worked at JP Morgan, so did the stereotypical go after the money when you're young. And then throughout every job that I had and every role in the bank, just became more and more disillusioned with it all. Like none of the pay rises made me happier. Getting the promotions didn't make me happier. So I thought, what is it that's actually really, you know, making me inspired, making me excited to work? The very first role I had, which was helping people, ironically, like just an IT help desk, that was the thing that I really enjoyed. And so I started to explore, kind of towards the end of my career, took a sabbatical, did some coaching qualifications, thought about what I really felt people need the most help with. And that was a lot to do with relationships. So I started journaling and writing online about my experiences. I added some twists on the usual cliche stuff, added how the neuroscience comes in, the psychology, the science. Got a bit lucky that some of my blogs took off on Medium.
Yeah,
and then
I
from
use Medium
that
as well.
Yeah, from that that just all sort of skyrocketed from there. Started getting coaching inquiries back in 2018, built up an organic practice, and then eventually left my job to go full-time coaching now. So I've been very lucky. Kind of just all happened. It's just naturally what I really enjoy doing as well.
It's a big risk to take as well. Cause I used to work for JP Morgan years ago as well.
Really?
From 99 to 2002, I was at JP Morgan as well, doing IT. So I was there doing IT goodie as well. So I was there for a long time as well. But yeah, 10 years, and that's a long time to be in something and then choose to pivot into something completely different. So
big time risk.
Yeah.
Especially I did it right in COVID as well. I think that's the thing that tipped me over the edge. This, you know, life's short, cliche, but true. And you're seeing this stuff happening around you. And I remember asking, do I want to be my boss or my boss's boss? Is this how I want to be remembered? What am I waiting for? And it's just like, I'm waiting for permission, someone to tell me it's all going to be okay, that I'm going to be a success. And that's never coming. So I just went in, thankfully with my wife's support as well.
Yeah.
Been lucky about that.
Nice. Yeah, so actually, funny enough, question about that. So how did your wife take it? You know, you choosing to make this part of your career path, new career path, your new, vocation, your new livelihood. What was her take on it?
Yeah, I think so. I would ask my mum and my wife, at the time my girlfriend before, for years, because I wanted to leave JP Morgan from the day I got there, basically 3 months, I would say. And every time I would go and say, "Oh, I'm going to leave," you know, I don't like this, I want to start my own thing, they'd always talk me out of it. And that's because they could sense that I wasn't sure about what I was doing, right? I'm looking for them to tell me, yeah, go leave, it's going to be fine. And the day that I was like, I'm doing it on this day, I'm all in, you know, absolute 100% certainty, everyone was on board from that point. It's like, oh, you're going to do it. You seem like you know what you're doing. You've got a plan. Now's the time. So I think actually they helped me by stopping me from going too early and just making sure that it's actually what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then full support.
I was just going to say, you might want to move your mic just a little bit that way. Yeah, just to make sure No worries, Rupin.
Nice. Yeah.
So, same question to you as well. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and what made you decide to get into doing. Because you're slightly different. You're
Probably a lot
focused more on
different.
men and the male mindset and
Yeah.
coaching and dating and giving men the confidence to do the approach. I guess is for want of a better phrase. But tell us more. You put it in your words.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 1/3 of the coaching. The pillars are approach, become, and connect. And so it's also about just becoming a better, more attractive man, as well as connecting on a deeper level with the, like, bringing the vulnerabilities and the intimacy so that actually you can build something like a relationship, and start to figure out what that actually means. You know, like a lot of my clients have never been on dates. They've not been in a relationship. Sometimes they've tried and they've been burnt, or they've just found it difficult. So approaching just 1/3 of the coaching practice that I have, and there's some similarities with Manj's story. Definitely, I think it was around that sort of time around COVID when things were changing, and maybe we just had this planetary reset, and obviously it was a difficult time for so many people, and like thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that had troubles and difficulties and pain and loss in that time. But at the same time, there was a big reset for a lot of people, and I definitely came out of COVID, out of the pandemic and the lockdown, feeling like I had some choices around my time schedule, that I was waking up earlier than I would when I would get up for work, and I was living a more fruitful, vital life, enjoying the fresh air. And we also had the best summer that we'd had for a long time that year. So, you know, it was a good transitionary time for me. But my journey had actually started before then. I am an optician by trade, so that's my career choice was to become an optician. But it wasn't because I was chasing the money. It was because I really wanted to be an optician since I was a very young kid. I decided at a very early age that was exactly the right career path for me. It was a red Ferrari that actually inspired me when I was a young kid. I asked, like, oh, what does that guy do? And my parents said, like, he's an optician. He's got a couple of opticians.
Are you too young to remember Magnum PI?
I don't know.
I
don't know who that is.
Yeah. How old are you, Manj, by the way?
33.
33.
Yeah,
Oh
33,
my God.
so-
Oh my God. You're 33. Oh my God. I'm 47, right? Yeah, I wonder if to be your dad's at this point. No, sorry. Continue, man. I know. But when you said optician, I was just saying, I can see clearly now.
Oh, no, I did not know that was the reference.
No, just that song, like, as soon as you said it. But that is what you do. You kind of helping people see more clearly in a different way.
Something like this, yeah. So I used to like change people's lenses, and now I change people's lenses in a different way. I totally see that similarity. And I trained and did a qualification with Dr. Shefali. I don't know if everybody knows Dr. Shefali, but she's the author of 3 New York Times best-selling authors. She's the author of The Conscious Parent and Oprah's favorite conscious parenting expert. So I ended up in that course. It inspired me. I felt like Dr. Shefali had a really great understanding of what it's like to be an Asian person, perhaps in a different culture, and trying to understand where the difficulties lie psychologically, and maybe that are manifesting in your adult connections, in your relationships. And for her, it was mainly about teaching parents to unlearn the mistakes that their parents had, you know, that they'd absorbed through the generations, and try to not pass them down onto the children. So I felt very inspired by that, and felt like that might be the right career path for me to go down to become a conscious parenting coach. I really loved the work. I just didn't end up resonating as well as I could have done with certain clients, like maybe the parents, that they needed a different outlook. And I'm not a parent. I'm quite grateful that I'm not a parent in many ways. There was an opportunity where I could have potentially been a parent, but things didn't work out, and I'm not a parent right now. So I decided to enter the coaching scene and help people exactly in the same spot and the same state that I'm in. I'm dating right now. Dating in London is quite challenging. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs and the emotional turmoil that people go through. But the most important thing is to understand your own patterns and the way that you are like kind of a reflection, that you're reflecting, you know, the relationships that you have are a reflection of your own consciousness and your own healing left to do. So when I left the sort of like parenting coaching scene, I transitioned quite smoothly into dating coaching and men's dating coaching, and the business is still evolving. Every time I get a new client, I'm learning from them and kind of developing the coaching practice. as well as knowing that there's this really deep, I guess, philosophical kind of like, there's Buddhist philosophies that are guiding my principles, that, you know, actually we all need to go through some unlearning, and unless we do that unlearning, we just end up in the same patterns of what we know, what we've had role modeled for us. So that's kind of my mission right now, is to help men to have healthier, more loving, expansive connection and good, solid, healthy relationships. But in reality, it's about the children one day. I'm trying to just help the conscious parenting mission, but 2 steps earlier, when the men are still trying to find their relationship and trying to establish that connection. So that's where I'm at right now.
I'm in love with you both already. It's just like, no, I love it. I think I love this because it is 3 very different stories with a lot of similarities. But what I love is obviously the fact that obviously we're both married, but yeah, obviously you're the one who's not married, so you're actively in it. I mean, of course, I see what's going on, but I'm not actively there. And there's a huge part of me that is curious, because I was driven by the fact that I was terrible at dating. Even though I was a coach, I was absolutely horrendously bad at dating. If there was such a thing as being a professional friend zone artist, that would have been, me. If that was a thing I could coach at, I would have been brilliant at it. So I had to learn. I had to learn how to do a lot of, as you beautifully put as well, unlearning and then relearning of how to approach, just certain aspects of psychology, attraction. You talked about, like Toastmasters earlier. We were talking about that earlier. And one of the things I did in 2008, as well as learning dating, I went into becoming a stand-up comedian. So I did that for a number of years as well.
Yeah, I've seen one of your clips, actually.
Yeah, you probably have, right? I've got some old ones lying around somewhere on my Instagram. You can find them if you want to have a look. But it was there was a lot of parallel between doing that, because obviously a lot of that was useful with the dating thing as well, in so many different ways, just being able to, because I think I was one of these people, I wasn't that funny back in the day. And so even though I tried to be funny, it was one of those ones I tell something that was funny to me and everyone else just be like, hello, tumbleweed kind of thing.
But nowadays you would teach that you should wait for the person that finds you funny, even as you are.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, no, I don't know. I think. See, I don't know if either of you've ever come across a gentleman by the name of John DeMartini. So he has one principle that I like as well. He said one of the most beautiful things you can do is speak in someone else's value system.
Nice.
So I sort of look at what, if I'm communicating with someone, I want to know what matters to them. And then can I mold myself to what's important to them and, communicate in that style?
Because, in the way that can be received best.
Yeah, exactly. In the way that they can receive it well. So even then, there were very few occasions where I went on a date and my humor didn't land after that. I'd learned. There was, of course, 1 or 2 occasions. There's always going to be a few people you're never going to get through to. But for the most part, it became a universal skill that could be carried forward anywhere. So, question to both of you now, whoever wants to go first, I'm happy with it. What do you see as being some of the biggest challenges? I'd love to know actually specifically unique to you, so not rather than generic,
okay,
from people you speak to and coach right now.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've seen in a couple of your clients, and what are your solutions to those problems?
Yeah, I think we're in an interesting conversation here, because actually my primary clientele is women. Asian women as well. So,
Okay.
we should probably chat. But
just put them in the same room.
Put them all in the same room, take them to one of Amit's events. For me, I think the challenges that I see, exactly what you said at the start, people are very fatigued and frustrated with the dating apps, especially the conversations.
Yeah.
It's almost as soon as they see that, how's your day? Like, the lights turned off, they're off the app, they're fed up of that. I think the other difficulty would be there's a lot of FOMO and instant gratification going on. So on one hand, we're worrying about, am I going to settle for someone? As I was talking about yesterday, a lot of people I speak to, a lot of women are worried they're going to have to settle because of age and concerns around how people are viewing them, even above 30, 30, 32, 33, really feeling like there's pressure there. And then I think the instant gratification thing is around, because of how we're wired now with dopamine addiction, we're always on our phones, we're seeing notifications, we get what we want when we want it.
Yeah.
We're almost looking for that person who feels incredible instantly, and they often are the worst people for you. They're the ones who are a bit uncertain. There's push-pull, there's hot-cold behavior. So they suck you in, and then after a while you realize, hang on, this person's not what I thought. And if I could sum it up in our culture, you know, in the Asian side, I get a lot of anxiously attached clients, women, who attract a lot of avoidant men.
Yep.
And then they end up in these cycles where they're trying to get them to do some work that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And then feeling disappointed, feeling like I'm the problem here.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting from, you know, hearing what you're saying. You're almost going to those people who are trying to discover intimacy and understand what a relationship, that's exactly what's needed for the solution on that side.
Yeah, and that anxious avoidant loop, I think probably that's my number one clientele as well, is people who are going through that, but yet they don't know the reason, they don't know how to manage it, and they don't know how to navigate it, and so they're always going through that same pattern. So that's usually my first question. Okay, what's your pattern? What are you always attracting the same of? What are you always going through? And even though they normally say, oh, not really, no, and then you delve deeper and they're like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, there is.
You're dating the same guy with different faces.
Exactly.
Like, wow.
Yeah,
no, it's very easy to change the partner and change some like demographic that you've decided this is exactly the problem, but it's the energetic connection and the way that you feel that is being repeated, not that they've got blonde hair again. Yeah,
exactly. So true. What about you, Rupin? So what are some of the biggest challenges that you're coming across? What do you think or what are you finding are the best you're offering as your best solutions to these people?
Yeah, well, obviously dating app fatigue does come up a little bit here and there, but we've got a great solution for that, which is just to get off the apps and delete them. That you don't actually need the apps as much as you think. I think we've just got, you know, into a culture where like we'd rather go on the phone and do stuff like Uber Eats than go to a restaurant and order food. Or if you get a chance to scan the code at the table, you're like, yes. You know, like, don't want to talk to anybody. It's true, you know, like just that lifestyle of like the screen will sort it out for me. But the reality is, and you guys know very well, and I'm sure everybody in the audience knows, that like 80% of the men don't get any matches, don't get any dates. Like it's not going well for a vast majority of people on the dating apps. So we're just trying to really return people back to human connection and remember that the way that you're, you know, like we often say as a bit of a joke when I'm in the WhatsApp group and stuff, is that, you know, your granddad probably has better riz than you do. Because he had to just go and meet some girl and say hello, and we're totally terrified of doing that these days. And the stats are that 70% of women actually would prefer to meet somebody offline, so in person, rather than on the app. And whether that be at a running club these days or whether that's in the singles events, you know, I went to a lock and key party at the weekend. It was just a great way to like interact with people. But actually they indulge in the fact that a man has come up to them on the street and taken the moment and taken the courage to compliment them on something that they purposefully left the house, you know, intentionally doing for their own attractiveness. They wanted to look attractive, and somebody's come and said that they look attractive. So it works for both sides, and this is a great solution to that, and that dating app fatigue, which is just to delete the apps because it's not very good for your mental health. And you can actually walk away from the apps feeling like you're the problem or that there's something unattractive about you, when in truth that it's just very hard to get through the first hurdle if you perhaps don't have the pictures. We do work on the dating app stuff. We work on the pictures, like putting the right types of pictures in the right type of order.
You mean no bathroom selfies, right?
Okay, that definitely helps. No like dog filters and stuff, you know? So there's a lot of things that you can do to improve your sort of like game on the apps if you want to. I'm not exactly an expert on it, and I don't want to be. I think that the more that I can do to help my clients to get off the apps, the better. But I do notice this attachment theory comes up a lot, and you know, it's not necessarily that people are lodged in their attachment style. They're not stuck in it. They kind of flip between different attachment styles depending on what the situation is and whether their, you know, emotions are being spiked in that moment. So somebody might say like, I'm definitely avoidant, and then they display signs of anxious attachment, and then they get confused because the theory is that you're either one or the other, or you're healthy and stable attached, or you're this new one which is ambivalent, which is kind of like a bit of both, one after the other. So I think that attachment styles can be quite they can close your mind to the possibility that we're just all of them all of the time, and that we need to understand that this is just the way that we're responding to the stimulus. But I would guess that a lot of my clients are avoidant rather than anxious, because maybe they're men, and men seem to tend to lean a little bit more into the avoidant category, and then they struggle with their dating, I would say, because they try very hard. That's what a lot of my clients end up, they come to me, there's like, I just keep getting myself into situations where there's this endless sort of like bottomless funnel pit, like you pouring myself into, and I'm not getting any reward from it. And so the reality is that they just need to step back from those relationships, and that's probably their anxious attachment style, where they're trying and they're pouring themselves into these connections which haven't really warranted that level of investment. They haven't actually seen enough of a return. And you don't want to only put wood in the fire when it gives you heat. You want to give a little bit, and then you want to expect something in return. But what a lot of men that I'm helping and that I have helped have discovered is that they can easily just give and give and give to the wrong people who don't actually appreciate them, who aren't reciprocal, and end up in a situation where they are confused. They don't know why the connection's not going the way that they want it to go, and it's because they haven't stepped back from that relationship. They haven't leaned away from it. They haven't given it any space or any sort of like vacuum to even observe whether she's that into you in return. There's no opportunity for that. So I'd say those sort of like two strategies that we've been doing like have worked really well, is get off the apps, start meeting people in person, and then start to, I guess, treat yourself with a bit more self-respect, like a higher self-esteem, that you're not trying so hard, and you give people an opportunity to actually like you back.
Yeah. I love that. And you mentioned about the pictures, right? And it's so funny. I had a lady come to me recently, and she was talking about, her frustration was, I keep attracting like men who are younger. And I looked at her profile picture, and I just said to her, I found the problem. She got a filtered picture. So she was in her late 40s. She's got a picture in which she looked about 29, and it's clearly a filtered picture. And I said to her, look, it's not that there's anything wrong with that, wanting to have a picture up that shows the best of you. But unfortunately, what we put out, we get back. You don't realize it's an obvious thing that you're putting out a picture of yourself, not just energetically, but that makes you look incredibly young. And you're wondering why guys are coming forward who are in their, late 20s, early 30s. And, that's obviously a big part of it. So if you want a man who's going to be at least in a similar age bracket, you've got to put out a picture that is a true representation of who you are. Like the filtering thing is a big thing, isn't it, at the moment as well?
It's easy to want to lie on the apps, and that's the problem of getting through the first hurdle, is like, if you can get yourself onto the date, then sometimes you can just try and figure out whether you like that person or not. But that kind of is the wrong attitude to start off with. That I really try to encourage people to have a vibe check where you're doing a quick FaceTime. So like match with the people that you think that you would vibe with, that you'd get on with, but then do a 15-minute check just to see whether the connection's real, and get the filters off, and just like actually figure out who this person is on the other side.
Yeah, I used to have a lot of those rules as well. So like, when I got really good at this and I found it easy, like, so my rule was maximum about 15 minutes of messaging to a phone call, usually within, pretty quickly, within at least a couple of days, at least, if not sooner than that. So my record was with my wife, got her number in 5 minutes. We're on the phone about less than an hour later. In fact, pretty almost immediately, in fact. We were on our first date. When I checked back, I thought it was 2 days later, but I actually think it was the next day. We had 3 dates in our first week. We had 12 dates in our first month. And this is while I was still dating other women as well. So, and a lot of people say, how can you manage multiple dating, right? So we'll get back to that in a minute. The multiple dating is a big one I get a lot. And I was like, do you know what? I think you almost have to treat if you're going to do something like this, because there's an element to this that is a numbers game, and there is an element that isn't a numbers game. But the element that is that, like, if you want to give yourself the best chance of meeting someone, you're going to have to meet a whole selection of people. And the problem with meeting one person at a time is that the big challenge I find is that what happens is you'll meet someone through your various attachment styles in any given moment. You'll potentially spend, a week messaging back and forth, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a couple more weeks to set up a date. And then you finally set up a date, and then you go back and forth for a while after that, if the date happens at all. And, before you know it, 3 months has passed. That is 3 months of your life you're never getting back. And, when you guys are young, when you hit 47, of course, your mortality hits you more, because I lost my sister. The first big loss I had in my life was my sister, who was 38. She was 39 a week later. I was 31 at the time. And then you start to really, the words, life is short, no longer is just a form of hyperbole. It has meaning. It has substance. So my message to people is, look, life is truly short. You can't spend all that time getting to know someone, because you never ever get that time back. You've got to play the numbers. You've got to speak to 2 or 3 people. That way, if one drops off the radar, you're less concerned about that one person, and you're still focused on the 1 or 2 you're still speaking to. So that was then it was about getting them on a date, speaking to them, getting to the first date, second date, third date. But I made it into quite a formulaic process. Now, to a lot of people, that can seem kind of removing the romanticism, but actually I would argue that actually added to the romance, the beauty of it. But you'd only know that if you try it, and that people would ask me as well, how would you keep up with all these women that you're dating and stuff? And I'd be like, do you know what? I write notes. I actually had notes on my phone. So if I got to know someone, and again, they would find that a very strange concept, but actually I think that's quite a nice thing to do, to actually learn about someone, to actually make the effort to memorize what they've told you. This day and age, people do find that a bit strange, but I'm like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I can see it being a really good idea that, it's just like, it's very hard to sit in front of somebody again and then they're like, I already told you this,
yes.
Like I already said I'm going to, this holiday in 3 weeks time. It's like, really, Rupin?
Yeah,
like, do I need to tell you again? We're going to meet twice before then. I'm going to tell you every time. It's like, no, it's worth remembering, especially if you have a bad memory and you want to take this person seriously. At that moment in time, you're not sure that it's going to go, that it's going to fade out. So you might as well treat it as if, it's for the long term and that you're taking it as seriously as you possibly can. So
I actually still have notes about Nirti on my phone that I've never deleted from the first ever date.
That's very beautiful.
And she's seen them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the name of her brother, when she was born, some of the things, names of her family, names of her parents, all that kind of stuff. It's still in my notes on my contact detail for her. But anyway,
still adding to
it. Well, I've forgotten most of it. No, honey, no, it's fine. I remember everything. I remember your birthday's in December. No. So no. All right. So then this nicely segues onto this idea and your thoughts on the concept of multiple dating, because I get this question so much. So what's your take? So we'll go to Rupin first this time. What's your take on multiple dating?
Okay. Well, look, I think in the early stages, it's quite important to not put all of your eggs, as it were, into any basket. It's gonna absorb your time and any lost connections that disappear will feel like you've lost that time. So I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that when you're a man and you're dating, like the women that you meet and the women that you're trying to go out with, they aren't going to go out with you until they're ready to go out with you. And so what I have developed, and I won't give you all the source just now, but there's an ebook that I'm kind of like sharing with my clients and people through my Instagram that just helps them to manage that expectations. Because if you want to maintain that connection, you only really want to maintain the connection when it's good for both of you. And in London, it's so busy. Like, people actually have like very, very busy, overwhelming lives. They're trying to do so many things, and dating might be like 3rd or 4th on their priority list, and you might be 3rd or 4th on their dating list. So it can feel very lonely and desperate if you're writing to somebody and trying to get them to meet up with you, and you you can't quite connect, you can't get the date, you can't schedule it. So the ebook's just designed to help men to kind of like manage that, and a lot of it's about leaving the ball in her court and allowing her to write to you when she would like to be taken out on a date, and kind of being that in that leadership role, that masculine leadership role, and allow like kind of teaching and guiding her exactly how you would like to be treated, so that she knows that when she's ready to meet up with you, she is going to write to you and she's going to connect with you, and then as soon as she does, you just take her out. But then that means that you might have to wait weeks and months. You know, sometimes like I'll get messages from somebody that's from months ago, and I've kind of like followed my own ebook, and it feels really nice when they do write. But if I was consistently writing to them and trying to catch up with them in between, they would feel like Rupin doesn't respect my time and my boundaries, and that he kind of like feels like he has a lot of expectations on my time, and I think it's nice to be polite and give people the space that they need. So when you kind of like follow the ebook and it's going well, and you end up just going out with whoever's in the mix at the moment, and whoever's looking forward to seeing you. That's a really nice part about it, is that you only end up dating women that are really keen to go out with you because they're the ones who've initiated the connection and reached out to you. And so you end up like at the early stages not really noticing whether you're dating multiple women or not. You're just going out with whoever is sort of like available and wants to meet you. So you couldn't really tell if you're dating those people. You just meet them when they want to be met. Does that make sense? So you just
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
and you know, the one thing I'd add to what you said is that I think one thing I say to people, and obviously men find the concept of multiple dating a lot easier than women do, of course, naturally. But I think what for me is the obvious retort to the idea that you shouldn't multiple date is that, look, you're conflating dating with being in a relationship, and you're not. The person who's opposite you that you're dating doesn't owe you a single thing. You're not in a relationship with them. They have no obligation to be exclusive to you until you both had that conversation. So I'm trying to push out a little bit of this idea to women that, look, I understand you're not in a relationship with that person, that just because you've had a conversation with them. Like, I had this question the other day, I want to dig it out in a second. It's from a woman. She said, we had a date. They were on the WhatsApp group, and then she said, we had a date yesterday, and then he put out his profile today. So we treat our WhatsApp group a bit like a pseudo dating app sort of thing as well. But of course, they encourage them to get off the app and dating as quick as possible. But she asked that question, and I was like, what does he owe you? You know, does he owe you anything? Are you in a relationship with him? Are you exclusive to each other? And the answer is, of course, no. So I think if we can separate, make a very clear distinction that dating is not being in a relationship. Only when two people have had that conversation, that yes, we've made that conscious choice, we're going to be exclusive to each other, then you can then get off the dating app. So Nidhi and I had this conversation actually after about 6 weeks of dating. It's a story I tell often. It's one of those conversations we had. So after about a 6th date, she rang me one day. She said, look, hope you don't mind me asking, are you still like dating anyone? I said, yeah, I've got a couple of dates lined up. She said, well, you know what? I know where I'm at now. I really like you, and I'd love for this to be an exclusive thing. If you're not ready for that, I wish you all the best. But I'm not going to be a part of it. And she didn't say it in a bad, like it wasn't a bad way. It never came across in a bad way or anything like that, or, you know, leaving me, you know, with an ultimatum or anything like that at all. She was just expressing that here's where I'm at and this is what my choice is. And I was like, wow, I've never really heard a woman speak that way before. So it really sort of like landed really well. I was like, wow. So I said to her, okay, cool, let's go for this. Let's go. I'm ready as well. I'm okay. I was only just dating because, you know, I enjoy dating. I think it's a fun thing to do. Getting to know people is about a human connection. It's not just out there to be a player. It's a human to human connection. And I love that. So we decided to go exclusive, and I remember the next day messaging all these women on Tinder and Plenty of Fish and wherever. I'm so sorry, I can't see you anymore. I'm exclusive now, and yeah, so that was it. But I like the fact she was honest about it. She didn't worry about it. It didn't affect her. She didn't say, "Oh, you son of a bitch, how dare you?" It was nothing like that. It was just okay.
Yeah, it's quite a healthy conversation that you've had, where you both kind of like shared what your needs are and how you like to progress and move forwards at that point.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? Being able to have that healthy discussion rather than it being something that you ruminate over so viciously in your head over and over again, and then turn it into something bigger than it needs to be.
I'm sure Manj would be a great person to like voice on this issue, but I do find that in the dating scene in London, that if it's anybody that's going to push for the exclusivity, it's normally women that are pushing to be exclusive before the men, and I think that's probably biological, and it's probably just like the culture right now, but also the attachment styles that we're noticing. And whereas in your relationship, obviously it was a great decision, and that move towards exclusivity helped out a lot, and became quite a fruitful connection that you're very pleased with. Sometimes it can be a fork in the road that perhaps ends the relationship early and prematurely, whereas it might have been very pleasant and continued for the long run, and maybe that was the right woman for him, but it's just that it's too early in that journey.
Oh, it was a her, yeah. But yeah,
that in any situation, I mean, like in London, like with the dating, perhaps globally, that sometimes there's a push for exclusivity at an early stage, which is to ensure safety and comfort in the connection, and that people almost feel like they have permission to be themselves in the relationship once it's exclusive. And I really try to encourage people to at least wait 3 months. Like 12 weeks is such an important time frame to understand who you're actually dealing with, and beyond 12 weeks is where you really get to see the cracks, and you get to see like who this person actually is when they're not.
It's like the 5 stages of a relationship. You go past the honeymoon phase, don't you, as well? So you kind of, I always say to everyone, you don't know someone until you've had your first fight, right? Until you've had your first big argument, you're never going to know that person truly. Okay, and that's where all the masks and facades fall off though as well. Yeah. So you have to, before you make any serious decisions about a person, wait till you've had your first big fight.
I mean, my clients don't fight with women.
I mean, I'm talking about your first big argument.
They don't do that.
Yeah. So, same question to you about multiple dating now. And also as well, following on from that, I want to hear a bit about your story about like how far were you into learning about dating and, you know, the whole kind of dating paradigm and, you know, learning to be better with women and that whole thing. And then, you know, was that before you met your wife? Was it after? And so we'll go to the multiple dating thing first and then answer that.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board. I think you have to date multiple people at the beginning. It's definitely more difficult for women, especially in the Asian culture. It's just not something that comes naturally to them. And I think a part of that as well, and something actually it's kind of, I don't know if it's controversial now, a lot of the clients I work with, we sort of see sales and dating as very similar, right?
As well.
And
and marketing, of course.
And if you everyone's in sales naturally, like every day of your life, right? But if you're a salesperson and you just jump straight in, you don't try to understand who the person is that you want to be with, who your ideal client is, so your ideal partner. And if you're too overzealous and you're overly selly, it never works. But when do you do that? It's when you don't know who your ideal client is, who you actually want to be with, and you don't feel like there are enough of those people out there in the first place. So leads, effectively. So I feel that when you can get a real sense of who you want to be with, and the way I think about that is about values first, right? Can you find someone, your top 3 values in life, and can you make sure, not that they align with the other people, but they don't conflict with them. So if you're very family orientated and you're dating people who've got no interest in family, if you're very entrepreneurial and you're dating someone who's really security focused, never going to work, right? And I think dating as many people, going back to the attachment styles that you were talking about, and I think you're absolutely right. I hate labels. So I'm not a fan of them, but I can't deny, like, 500 clients, attachment's a real thing.
Yeah, of course.
But it's contextual, as you said. So it's a survival response in each particular, situation. And I think dating more people up front gives you a real chance to avoid the initial cycle that you're always repeating. So you have to actually meet more people than you think you need to originally. Statistically, we know that I think it's something like 25% or more of the dating pool will be avoidant because they're naturally not going to get into relationships. So you might need to just go out and meet a little bit more people to see, actually, do I connect with someone? And going back to your point as well, like not just jumping into the commitment within 12 weeks. So I'm a big fan of it. I think it's essential, but a little bit of a challenge for women, and that's something that we have to work on when we work together. One thing I always say as well is unhappiness comes from unmet expectations, right? And if you've got an expectation you've not verbalized, like you were saying, your wife has actually come out and said, you know, like, I can do this or not, then that's kind of on you. You need to have those conversations up front.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about your backstory, about you and your wife.
Yeah, so it's a bit funny. Like, I met my wife on day one of uni.
Nice.
So
Okay.
we had a conversation outside the UCL Science Library.
Sweet.
Prior to that, string of terrible relationships, and you know, I was young, but it was the friend zone ticket that you were talking about. I grew up in, you know, that 90s TV and movies and that idealizing romantic
You were a deep romantic. Me too.
I'd go hard early on with all that stuff, even a little bit of Bollywood, and you know, I didn't really watch a lot of it, but I had enough to know that you do these stupid gestures and you get someone. So after going through that experience and getting rejected constantly, it's like something needs to change here. So I started doing a lot of work on myself. I started trying to understand as well, why was it that I felt so anxious? Why was it that I got so attracted by mixed signals? Because mixed signals used to be the one that I was just like, well, I need to figure this out. I'm always thinking about them. I must love them if I'm always thinking about them. That's when I discovered the kind of psychological things around it, why we need closure as well. Did a lot of work on myself there. And that was the basis of it. That's what changed everything with my wife. I didn't jump in like I normally did. I didn't go and have these DMCs, you know, on day one. I wasn't texting her all the time. Yeah. Took it slow, worked through that. And then because that was so successful for me, all my friends start coming to me saying, you know, what do you do? You know, they're sort of treating me kind of like a love doctor like you. And that's just how it grew. Because then when I wrote online on Medium, I was just showing all these things that worked for me from my experience, and people really related to that. So that's kind of the long short of it. But what I found was, I think you said this earlier, your relationships are a mirror of where you're at, right? Those patterns followed me at work as well. So how I was being, or how I felt about myself would come into JP Morgan, you know, chasing jobs that didn't want me, not feeling good enough for these sorts of things. So there was a period of time when, I've got, you know, an amazing girlfriend, but there's still more stuff to do to get to that next level. And once I did that and started showing that, even more impact can be made in relationship coaching. Yeah.
Nice. So how long have you guys been married now?
2020, so we should get married. What is that? Nearly 4 or 5 years? Yeah. But we've been together 15 years.
15 years. So you guys got married in lockdown?
Yeah, lockdown wedding.
So really? So did you have to like have a really small
15
wedding?
15 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then...
Did you make up for it afterwards?
Yeah, we did the reception the year after. So that was not far from here, actually.
Okay, yeah.
In Weybridge.
Oh, nice.
But that was very nice.
Yeah.
But, you know, even for me, like, I come out as avoidant on the attachment, but so much of my healing has come from being with my wife.
Yeah.
Because she's secure. So she's had the perfect upbringing, so much attention from both parents that she's such a stability for me that it's allowed me to explore intimacy, my own relationship myself, in a way that just was never possible with the kinds of women I was hanging out with before, who always made me feel insecure about myself.
So go on then. How did it turn from a friendship to something more? Like, what was your line you used on her?
I think it was something really bad. Like, I think I was trying to get her to ask me out.
Well, that's the role of an expert dating coach. You have to flip it, don't you?
It's like really awkward. I should kill me for telling this. It's this really awkward conversation in the university halls around like who should ask the other person out. I think eventually I just. Will you be my girlfriend or something? Oh
yeah, back in the day, that's how we did it, right? Yeah, and that's how we rolled. That was Riz back then, wasn't it? That was will you be my girlfriend is how we did it.
But because it was kind of tongue-in-cheek cheesiness, right? At that point, we know that we want to be together.
Did you send her a note with like 2 checkboxes, yes or no? Or...
No, it was like, it was in person, so there was no notes. It's good, but it was a big turning point for me because up until then, all I'd known was the rejection or relationships with people that I didn't really want to be with.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like just keeping the distance and learning how to be essentially. So bit of a journey, but in many ways I did luck out.
Yeah. Sounds like you got one of the good ones.
Yeah, no,
Nice. Now we just got to sort out Rupin.
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
yeah.
So going back to another great point you made as well, Rupin. Okay, so you mentioned, okay, like, and I'm 100% aboard this as well. Obviously, I did a video recently on my Instagram as well. That there was the celebrity blackout challenge as well. Not blackout challenge, but there was this kind of thing. I don't know if you guys saw it on TikTok, but basically, there's a TikTok celeb who did this thing. Let them eat cake. And it annoyed people because obviously that originates from one of the French queens who all her subjects are starving and she's living this opulent life. Yeah. And this, her servants, and then they eventually got her and chopped off her head. So she was doing a parody of that. But obviously people are like, in this day and age, it's a real insult onto people. So now they start to, block out, all these celebrities, right? And then it got me thinking
cancel
about,
culture.
Yeah, exactly, right? But it is the first one that I've ever actually agreed with in cancel culture. But
okay.
But I say agree with, but do you know what I mean? Like, I think people had a point. But saying that though, the reason I made that video about blocking out apps is because obviously there've been loads of stories, and obviously there is a litigation going on in America against. I think it's the company that owns Tinder, I believe, for deliberately creating the effect that it has in terms of creating addiction and falsifying matches, and there's other stuff in there as well. So from that perspective, I think to myself, my mindset is more that my true mindset is that, look, dating apps are a tool. They're fine. Use them. There's nothing wrong with them. But use them in the way they're supposed to be used. You don't, I mentioned earlier, you don't get sucked into messages on there. You don't get sucked into, another thing I notice a lot of people do is that if they do get an insulting comment from someone or something gets lost in translation, then they'll start this whole back and forth and start having a go at each other. And I'm like, why would you waste your mental energy on that? What did you gain from that experience? Anything at all? No, just more dating burnout, more mental fatigue. So just avoid it. If you end up having a nice interaction with someone, great, continue. If you don't, just block, move on, that's it, done. So I do see it as a tool, but I see it as a tool that to not be dependent on. My first thought for most people is get out there. Go meet people. And it's not necessarily dating events, but just, find people in the places where you would enjoy most being. So if you enjoy hiking, go to a hiking club. If you enjoy running, go to parkrun. If you enjoy playing chess or reading books, join a book club, because that's where you're going to find your people, right? Yeah. So what would you say to people for as the best solution for where they can meet someone who, as you mentioned, in terms of having value alignment, their axiology is, in parity. So what would you say to people for,
really useful.
To where to go to meet people?
For me, the one exercise we always do with clients is this concept of creating your life pillars. So 3 to 5 things that you do on a regular basis that bring you joy, happiness, and personal growth, right? So when I ask clients, 99% of the time they don't know what these things are. They might have 1 or 2 gym or going running, but they're really scratching after that. And the reason I like this is because it teaches you to put work in and get reward. So if you can actually do something that you have to get better at and you can see progress, which is really good for your self-esteem and self-worth.
Can I ask you something as well? Because I hear gym a lot as well. When I say to people, so where do you spend your time? Yeah. And they often say gym, and I'm like, are you there because you choose to be there or because you feel you have to be there? Because if you feel you have to, that's not something that is part of your purpose. It's not part of what you truly want to do or where you want to be. So let's discount that right off. So do you find that as well? It's just people are just saying it because
people take up CrossFit just to meet people.
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly right. Yeah.
It's like sadistic because it's like the most intense kind of training, nonsensical in many ways. I love it, but it's nonsensical. Yeah. But if that's the only thing, and then you get injured, this happens to a friend of mine. She loves her fitness and sport. She gets injured, she's done. She has no sense of who she is outside of that. Yeah. And that's really difficult, even though she's a really smart girl. So when we think about these 3 to 5 things and clients implement them, they're getting a well-rounded life. They're getting things they're getting better at. They're meeting new people regularly. And also dating is not the 100% focus. So they're not sitting there ruminating on why that person didn't text back or is it me? Am I not good enough? they're at least filling their time with something useful for them. That has been a massive game changer for the clients who do implement it. There are some people who prefer to sit at home and kind of think about it, or say, you know, I don't have any hobbies, or my family or my hobbies, you know. But yeah, for me, that's a really useful way of determining where you can meet people. Of course, you've got the singles events like you do as well, and Lock and Key like you mentioned. I think that's fantastic.
Really interesting. Yeah, I think it's great how you've like structured it into a few different categories to say like, where are you ticking these boxes that you need to identify and to feel like you're living your fullest experience of life. And I think we kind of separate it into two strategies in my coaching. Firstly, which is developed from my own experiences in my own life, is that like, I had to look back and wonder what were the hobbies and what were the experiences that I would have liked to have experienced, but life just got in the way. I just grew up and I never got a chance to do that. And there was a time when I used to think that I would definitely be a sculptor, and I really thought that sculpting like a statue, like a face or something out of a block of marble was exactly what I wanted to do. But obviously I got life came in the way. I just like decided to leave that hobby behind, and I really thought I wanted to be a potter as well. So I did buy a pottery wheel, and what I discovered was that the faster that you go through hobbies that you think might be the one that is for you, the faster you actually find what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And so right now I'm really into rap. I write rap, and I go down to the studio, which isn't far from here in Park Royal, with Nomad. Shout out Neil. So but he's really helped me to produce some tracks, and I've found this creative outlet for myself, which kind of actually came through journaling, and it came through painting, and it was a combination of a few different things, and recognizing how easily music brings people together. So I started writing just before I went traveling, backpacking, and when I got to Spain and Germany, I just said to random guys on the streets, like, bro, do you want to hear my rap? And they were like, yeah. Like, do it. And we just chilled and we became friends and connected. But it might have been connections that I couldn't have accessed without a certain hobby that allowed me to express myself. And then the second part of the strategy is actually like, we're trying to reverse engineer it. I don't know if this is kind of like falling into your sales and marketing strategy, but you try and work out like the types of girls that you want to date. Where do you think they might be? And where do you think they might be like waiting for a guy like you? And you think about it and you're like, oh, I really want a woman that knows how to cook very well. And it's like, we'll just go to the next cooking class that teaches some like thing that you might want to, eat. And you might meet the perfect woman who's there to learn how to make that thing for herself and her friends, and then one day maybe her partner, and you start to discover that actually you can just put yourself into the right room with the right types of women and go and say hello to them, and all of a sudden like you're just friends with them, or just have good connection with people that have the types of interests that you would like to see in your future partner. So kind of like do it in two different ways. And often when I'm asking my clients like, what actually are your hobbies, other than gym, like obviously a lot of them like to walk, they like to watch YouTube and spend time with friends, they socialize and drink, and maybe watch some sports and stuff like that. So it's just about picking something outside of the norm, like where's your expansive hobby and what does that look like, and could we do something that is very specific and intentional to put you in front of the right types of women that you'd love to date.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. When you were talking about kind of finding, what you love to, like what, where you like to spend your time, or where would you think these people would be. And I don't know if you guys know Vin Klang. He's that public speaker. You might have seen him. He wears glasses. You know who I mean, right?
Yeah, he's like talking about how to talk to other people, like how to
jump into conversations. So he's the conversation and the public speaking expert, nice right? Speaker. And he was talking about this as well. He was told, she had a beautiful story about a message his dad told him, and I don't know if this is just his marketing expertise, but obviously delivered it in such a way. I'm sure it didn't happen exactly like that. It's a sweetened story, but he talked about how like he was talking about saying to his dad, I don't know what I want to do and stuff, and his dad said to him, but what have you done so far? How many jobs have you had so far? And he said 2, and he goes, well, that's 2 things you don't want to do, right? So what's next? And that's how I got into all these different things. Like I was a professional magician, I did stand-up comedy, I've done so many different radio presenting, I've done so many different things in my life. And that's why I did it. Written books, blogs, everything. It's just more about me experimenting, about deciding who I choose to be. Like by trying something, if I don't like it, I don't do it anymore. I remember back in the day, I took up badminton and squash at the same time, and I realized actually I don't like squash as much, so I'm going to take up badminton, and I play badminton regularly for 20 plus years. And then I took up the comedy, and then the dating coaching, and then the being a magician before that, and so on and so on. But I just tried loads and loads of different things, and through that I got to know myself and who I am, and like you said, where I can find my people, or potentially if I was single, where I could find people I'm more likely to connect with and have a deeper connection with, and a natural rapport. So it doesn't feel so forced as well when you're having a conversation. You don't feel like you're trying to think of things to say, because obviously that's a big block for most people, isn't it? When they get in their own head, like, what do I say next? What do I say? What do I talk about?
Once you're in the same sort of club, then there's a connection that's automatic. You don't have to find out like who they are and find out if you are similar in any way. You're both in the same space for the same reason, and that should automatically put you at a higher level of connection and almost like you're friends before you even start communicating. And I think people maybe underestimate that if you're both at the same gig to see the same artist, like you're kind of friends. And if it was the internet, you'd both be just talking to each other in the internet without any sort of like holding back. You just be automatic friends because you both like this same artist. And when you're at something like a gig, you should feel comfortable to be able to speak to the person next to you and assume friendship, because most people are open and willing, but they're just scared and they can't break that barrier themselves.
Definitely, yeah. So, can you believe it? We've almost hit an hour already, right? So, what we're going to do is, firstly, are you up for part 2 at some point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you up for a part 2?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, that is binding by law, right?
Yeah.
They have agreed to it. They have to do it. They have to show up for next time, right? So you're my witness, ladies and gentlemen. They've agreed to it. We're going to be there. So couple of quick fire questions. So you're kind of one sentence answer to this, right? I'll just ask you a couple. Let's mix it up. I'll mix them up. Manj, you first on this one, and same question to Rupin afterwards. Yeah. One sentence. Why do nice guys finish last?
Because they're dishonest about their true intentions.
Love it.
They haven't accepted that they deserve to, I don't know, push for what they want, to reach for what they want.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would say my answer to it would be, I think they've only looked at one dimension of their personality and they've yet to uncover who they truly are, and the multi-dimensional, multifaceted, God-force, divine human being that they could be, and they haven't explored that yet. So they're just delivering a one-dimensional version of who they are.
Well, that was much better than my answer.
No, don't. He's on the spot. It's my question, isn't it? So yeah.
No, I think every guy has the nice guy inside them, but they also have this like vicious beast that they just need to harness.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll change it to my answer.
All right, for this one to you, and we'll go around as well. Why for the women out there, why has he pulled away?
Men think about things inside their head and come to the woman once they've fully decided, and it's okay to give them the time and space for that.
Same question. Why did men pull away?
Yeah, why did he pull away? So that could be, we're talking the very early stages, the chat stages, the dating stage, the relationship stage, whatever. Because I think the reason is more or less the same anyway. But
I think it's not as much to do with her as it is him figuring things out himself.
Yeah. And
then if the woman reacts in a way that makes it about her, then he's going to run a mile.
Yeah.
And think, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, I would agree as well. And as I put it there's the 4 love languages of the soul. For women, it's time and empathy. For men, it's space and appreciation. And it's men enacting their need for space, and that doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It's just that he needs space to process what he's going through, because men don't necessarily articulate their emotions externally. They tend to internalize, and they need to process. So I think for men, it's about just requiring that space. And so for women to, like you said, in fact, to be honest, total parity there, and just women being able to recognize that that's his, in the same way she wants him to listen, his catharsism is space, and so he needs that. So I think that's what he needs. And I'll ask you both for one last thing you want to share for anything you're hearing a lot of right now. And what's your top giveaway that you can give to people and message with regards to anything to do with dating and relationships and being successful in that area?
Yeah, I would say that the most important message that I could deliver right now is to enter a space of observation in the early stages of dating, that you are treating yourself with a lot of respect and dignity, and that you're never trying to get people to like you. As soon as you are in that space of lack and you're in that space of need, then you will invite unhealthy connection into your life. And so if you can stand up tall and hold your frame and allow people that vibe with you and resonate with you to find you and to connect with you, then you're going to be in a much healthier space. So just don't try too hard, just allow connection to find you.
Nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think the number one, my message obviously going more to the women in the audience, is if you're frustrated that you're not finding your person and dating hasn't worked out for you, the key, I think, is to date intentionally. 99% of the women I work with haven't done that because they don't know what they want, they don't understand their patterns, and they're not taking action consistently to be able to actually attract the kind of person they want. So that stuff that I talked about earlier, get clear on your top 3 values so you know what you're looking for in a person, and that stops you being picky because we're saying 3. It's not you doing a checklist of things that aren't going to matter 10 years down the line. Understand your patterns. I talk about attachment styles. There are various other things though that are very important. You know, whether you work with a coach, therapist, do some reflection, journaling, you have to understand what you're bringing to the table, and then you need to follow a strategy. You can't be whimsical about it. You can date multiple people, but it's got to be a priority without being the number one thing. It doesn't mean take over your life, but if you don't focus on it, it's not going to happen. And then time's going to go, as we were saying earlier.
Shabash. Love it. Love it. Beautiful. Mine is make it fun, not formal. Enjoy it. I know it's hard, easier said than done, but I think sometimes we just take this thing too seriously and it's supposed to be fun. So we got to make dating fun, babies. Ladies and gentlemen, make it fun.
Come to Amit's events.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, it is currently, as we're filming this, the 13th of June, and my big singles event is on the way, 22nd of June, but there's going to be more coming up soon. I mentioned to Manj, we're going to have paintballing coming up soon. We're going to have our summer picnics are coming up. We'll have one in London, one in the Midlands, and then there'll be another big singles event, and a lot more as well on the horizon. We're planning loads of different things as well. So you never know, we might do something together as well. And ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Feel Inspired podcast. Firstly, can we say a big thank you to Manj? Oh yeah, before we go, of course, tell everyone your social media, where they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So just Instagram, Manj Bahra, and then also I'm on Medium, Manj Bahra again. Got a lot of great articles on there, been very popular. Worth a read if you have the patience for that. Otherwise, Instagram, Manj Bahra.
If anyone can actually read anymore, hello.
Yeah, it's very detailed stuff. So,
Yeah.
But if you want to get in touch, obviously, keen to speak to anyone.
Nice, Rupin.
Yeah, great. So my Instagram is Rupin Rach, RUPINRACH. And if you just go to the links in my bio, there's a WhatsApp group for the London Cold Approach workshops, which run every 2 weeks. They're normally centered in Piccadilly Circus. But I definitely recommend you come to it if you are a man and you're dating and you don't know how you're going to access the types of women that you really want to meet and you find beautiful. Like, this is the cure, this is the solution, this is the source. So make sure you come to my workshop.
Sweet. Thank you guys once again, and hopefully we get to do this again soon.
Great.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Where's the clapperboard? And that's a wrap.
Nice.